Welcome to St. Thomas Methodist Church in Plettenberg Bay. The message is brought to you by Reverend Timothy Rist.
Good morning, friends. Very warm welcome to you. Would you just turn to those nearby and say hi and hello, how are you? Hey, would you greet each other? And so let's just close our eyes for a moment, just for quiet, in a short prayer that I'm going to lead us in. So I invite you to be still now, be quiet. And on this, our Communion Sunday, let's be still as we draw near to worship God. Let us take just a few seconds to remind ourselves why we are here together today. Let's learn to listen. And friends, in the quiet as we listen, God speaks even through the background noise of the world around us. So let's listen. So Father God, in this short time together, open our ears and our eyes to hear you and to see your vision for this place and our part in that. Father, this morning, teach us. Hear our prayers. Give us the strength and the courage and the wisdom to live and to work for you wherever that might take us. We ask all this to your praise and to your glory. Amen. John 21, from verse 1 to 19. And the theme, as you can see, is let's go fishing. And I wonder where I'm going to take you very quickly in this. This is after the resurrection of Jesus and so on, just before the end of his earthly ministry time. That's when this happens. Later, Jesus appeared again to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. This is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there. Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples. Simon Peter said, "I'm going fishing." "We'll come too," they all said. So they went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. At dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, "Fellows, have you caught any fish?" "No," they replied. Then he said, "Throw out your net on the right-hand side of the boat and you'll get some." So they did. And they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. Then the disciple Jesus loved, John, the gospel writer, said to Peter, "It's the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he had stripped for work, jumped into the water, and headed to the shore. The others stayed with the boat and pulled a loaded net to the shore, for they were only about 100 yards from the shore. When they got there, they found breakfast waiting for them, fish cooking over a charcoal fire, and some bread. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught," Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net to the shore. There were 153 large fish, and yet the net hadn't torn. "Now come and have some breakfast," Jesus said. None of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Then Jesus served them the bread and the fish. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to his disciples since he'd been raised from the dead. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter said, you know that I love you. Then take care of my sheep, Jesus said. A third time he asked him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said, then feed my sheep. I tell you the truth. When you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go. Jesus said this to let him know by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, follow me. All right, friends, so let's go fishing. That's the theme for the week. And why this theme? It's set for us in our lectionary, yes, the reading itself. But why this theme? Why did I choose to go in this direction? Well, the story is all about discipleship. It's about evangelism. It's about personal restoration. It's about healing. And so I pray that as I share the message with you, it will be a time for you this morning that Jesus will show up for you on the shore, on the beach of your life. Can you use it as a metaphor for who you are? Your life is out there on the lake, and Jesus is waiting for you on the beach, on the shore of that area. And he wants to meet with you. He wants to heal you. He wants to restore you. We know that fishing stories are not unique to John. They are part of the Gospels. Matthew chapter 4 puts the fishing story right at the beginning of the ministry time of Jesus. Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people. So at the beginning, before his work began, he was collecting people that he would train. And so we know, friends, that fishing stories are this metaphor in the Gospels for discipleship and for evangelism. And so we need to remember those two, discipleship and evangelism. That third point I threw in at the beginning, God's on the side of the poor, for May month, for Mission Month. So here we go, 5 quick points for you. The first one is fishing is always better done together. See, Matthew used that fishing image at the beginning of the ministry when Jesus pulled people together to work with him. And now John uses this fishing story to wrap up the ministry of Jesus when Jesus is bringing people together again to carry on with something. And they need to do it in community. They need to do it with each other. We don't know why there were only 7 there. John says 7 disciples were there. He lists their names. But we do know that Peter is the one who decided to go fishing. I am going fishing, he said. I wonder why he said that. The others hearing him say that say, no, hold on, we are going with you. We'll come too. So together they went out in the boat. Together they caught nothing all night, but they were at least together. So when Jesus arrived to teach the lesson, the community was waiting for the lesson to happen. Fishing is done better together, first of all. Secondly, when we are in community and called to do the fishing work for Jesus, secondly, we must listen always for the voice of Jesus. I say it again, if Jesus is not the center of what it is you're trying to do, don't do that. If Jesus cannot be in that conversation, if he cannot be in that decision about to be made, if Jesus is not the focus of that, it's not of God. Move away, pull away. Listen for the voice of Jesus. Luke 5 was another one, another fishing story. Again, at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, set by Luke there. Jesus is in Simon's boat, gets into his boat. And then Jesus gives him instructions on where to fish. And as Simon listens to his voice, they have this miraculous catch of a large number of fish. 2 boatloads, we are told. Simon, overwhelmed in that moment, falls to his knees. He doesn't recognize Jesus as Messiah yet. He recognizes Jesus as someone special. Forgive me, I'm a sinner. John, very different. John, who we read today. Jesus is not in the boat. Jesus is on the shore. Jesus is at the end of his earthly ministry. He's looking out onto the lake. He sees the guys out there that should be getting the job done. And so his voice calls out to them. And as they listen to his voice, then what needs to happen takes place. They succeed. And then the voice of Jesus guides them on what they're doing there. And then his voice calls them to the beach. So the third point, it's not just about getting out there and doing the work. It's not just about listening to the voice of Jesus. It's about understanding the need to be in fellowship and community together. And that's where the fire part of the story comes for me. They gathered around this charcoal fire on the beach. John says there was this miraculous catch of fish. The disciples struggled to land it. And as they're struggling with the success they've been given, Jesus, again, his voice calls out, come have some breakfast with me. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. Then Jesus served them the bread and the fish. Can you think of another miracle where there's bread and fish? The feeding of the many thousands, 5,000. Jesus blessed the bread and broke the bread and the fish, and they were all fed. Jesus here blesses the bread and the fish, and he feeds the disciples. The last time Peter, we are told in the Bible, the last time Peter was around a charcoal fire was when he betrayed Jesus on the night of Jesus' betrayal. I don't know the man. I'm not one of his crowd. Don't associate me with him. Got nothing to do with him. And so there's this poetic moment, powerful moment, where Jesus gets together with Peter around a charcoal fire. And he restores him. But he restores him in the presence of community. Doesn't just do it on his own, away from the others. Because fellowship and community means working together and finding healing together. And then fourthly, what's this all about? Why now together on the beach? Well, Jesus is changing the model for ministry now. He's telling Peter and the others there that they will take over the role of shepherding. Feed my lambs, take care of my sheep, feed my sheep. We know that's a restoration moment for Peter, but it's also an instruction. Jesus, we know in John chapter 10, calls himself the Good Shepherd. I am the Good Shepherd, my sheep hear my voice and they follow. Now Jesus is saying, by the way, guys, you are now the shepherds. Peter, this is your responsibility. Community here with Peter, you better listen up, because this is how you're going to get the job done. You are going to be the shepherds of all those who need love and need care and compassion and healing, all of those gospel things, the lambs and the sheep. And then John inserts right at the end there, because this was written quite a long time after this event happened. John said that's how Peter knew that his life would end one day, with execution. One day you'll be taken and led by the hand. Others will dress you. They'll lead you to a place you don't want to go. But Peter, says Jesus, get the job done. You are to lead this community to get the job done. And then the fifth point, friends, is God's love searches always for those who need healing. God's love searches and finds, and when accepted by the other, restores and heals. So I want to say to you again, if you want to know where God is, go and look for the broken people. If you want to know where God is, go and look for the hungry and those in poverty. If you want to know where God is as peacemaker, go to the war place. God is there trying to bring peace. God's grace goes to those who need healing and restoration. See, I'm going fishing, said Peter. In other words, the crisis, and I paused when I said that earlier on, because this crisis has grown so loud in Peter's life. The crisis, death, resurrection, model for work has changed. I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm going back to my fishing business. I'm going back to what I know. I'm going fishing. Yeah, we'll go with you. The whole movement could have died right there. The whole movement of Jesus. So Jesus meets them on the beach and says, there's no such thing as business as before. Come. I'm giving you instruction. You're going to go and get the job done. So God's love, the generosity of his love, reaches out and finds Peter, draws Peter in, draws the 7 in, gives them healing, gives them restoration, Peter especially, and then sends them to do the work. And that's what evangelism and mission is about. It's about you and I being sent in the name of Jesus to get the job done. For the sake of the other. Because the other is being searched for by God. I need you to go. And so God offers us this love beyond our imagination. But remember, friends, at the same time, he's offering the other person that love too. Love beyond which we can calculate. And when God's love goes and works in those powerful ways, miraculous things happen. I believe as we sang, that hymn we sang, Let There Be Peace on Earth. I know it's an old hymn. It predates the late Pope Francis by a long way. But it was his favorite hymn. Summarizes what the gospel is about. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with moi. So in closing, and we're going to sing 2 very powerful songs now. So team, would you come forward? And I invite you just to remain seated for the songs. Unless you feel the urge to stand. That's fine too. But here's my prayer over you. I pray that this week Jesus will show up on the shore of your life. I pray that you will hear his voice. You will be listening and you'll hear his voice saying, come and have a meal with me. Come sit around the fire with me. And as you hear that voice, I pray that you will accept that call so you can be healed and restored. That you may be fed by the bread and the wine. That you may be filled, that you may be sent. And you understand in that moment God truly loves you. He loves you so much he will move all of heaven to reach into your life. But remember, he loves the other person in that same way too, whoever that other person is. And he might need you to take the love of heaven to that other. So just as God loves you, he loves the other person too, whoever that other person might be. And then remember, friends, always there's kingdom work to be done. So, we've been fed. Let's get on with it. In Jesus' name.
Thank you for joining us in listening to this message. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. In this way, you will be notified when the next message is available. Until next week, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace.